Good morning, good evening, good night. It's the Smooth Thrills Radio Hour, coming to you from Old East Dallas. I'm your host, Jason Rutledge. So if you caught our Instagram live stream from April 18th, you'll know that this previous week, as we've experienced it in real time anyway, marks the anniversary of our very first episode debut, episode 101, Summer of Werewolves, where we talked about The Howling and Wolfen and An American Werewolf in London. We just want to thank everyone who's been listening to the show since then, and of course everyone who's jumped on the space wagon since then. We appreciate every last one of you. Especially that person in Spain who's downloaded every episode for the last year. We want to hear from you. How are you doing? Are you good on wine? Are you wondering about Tony? Wondering where he could be? Who he is with? What he's thinking? Whether he's thinking of you? And whether he'll ever return someday? Let us know. Well, with that out of the way, it's time to start this episode, and this one is all about a milestone in the world of big, explosive, and sweaty action movies. It is, of course, Commando. Nathan and Joe are here to discuss. But first, in case you aren't familiar with the movie, here's Radon Chong to get you up to speed.
Who the hell are you, huh? Oh! You steal my car, you rip the seat out, you kidnap me, you ask me to help you find your daughter, which I very kindly do, and then you get me involved in a shootout where people are dying and there's blood spurting all over the place, and then I watch you rip a phone booth out of the wall, swing from the ceiling like Tarzan, and then there's a cop that's gonna shoot you, and I save you, and he starts chasing me! Are you gonna tell me what's going on or what?
No. 20th Century Fox.
Okay, yeah, that's right, because it stars Daniel Day-Lewis.
So SLM Production Group, distributed by 20th Century, yes.
And
SLM was a big deal back in the 80s.
Did anybody go without underwear in this movie, do you think?
More than likely.
We're already starting with that? Really?
Are we starting already?
I feel it's important to get that one out of the way as quickly as possible, though, Nathan.
Okay,
I mean,
all right.
Yeah. So that'll be it for that one, though.
Or why wasn't the saying "going commando" being only in your underwear, since that's what he did at the end with the Speedo and the boat?
Isn't going commando?
Going commando is without.
Right. So if you have pants on without the underwear.
Being continuously sweaty and, I don't know.
But why isn't the saying "going commando" just being in your underwear, since that's what the commando made? Yeah, let's start the show.
I don't know. I think the couple in the Sunspot Hotel went commando. You can look at it that way.
Yeah, they did.
Still not a good intro, but go ahead, Jason.
So anyway, we're looking once again at 1985 because this show is obsessed with movies that were released during the year 1985. The United States was experiencing a very powerful new wave of patriotism. Reagan had been reelected to his second term, allowing him to continue on his quest to exterminate commies everywhere, and in his own words, make America great again. This battle extended mostly in secret to Central America, in spite of the fact that about 70% or so of Americans were totally against getting involved in the region in any way. It would, by the next year, 1986, erupt into the enormous scandal that would come to define Reagan's presidency, the Iran-Contra affair. Now, I mention this only because no art is created in a vacuum. This sort of let's solve all our problems with rockets and grenades idea and the notion of correcting our past mistakes made its way into our action movies, probably starting with Missing in Action, 1984, Rambo First Blood Part 2, Electric Boogaloo, and then, of course, on October 4th, 1985, my friends, there was something in the air that night. The stars so bright, Commando was unleashed on the nation. Welcome back, everyone, to the Smooth Thrills Radio Hour, coming to you from Old East Dallas, and our movie is indeed Commando this time, and it's a movie that I look at completely differently now than when I saw it for the first 3 or 4 times. I mean, granted, I was like a teenager at the time. It's a fun movie. I think of it more as a comedy than an action movie, really.
I don't, because I don't remember seeing it. I remember clips from whenever I was a kid. Like, I remember just small snippets of the beginning, the very beginning, and the very, very end. And that's it. I remembered nothing in the middle. So this was almost a brand new movie to me.
Really?
Which is very strange since, I like Schwarzenegger pictures a lot.
Yeah, that kind of surprises me. I mean, I was familiar with it from, probably didn't see it in theaters. I think it was probably HBO, like everything else. But I don't know how many times I've seen it, and I just recently, for this show, revisited it and thought, oh my God, this is an unintentionally funny movie for about an hour and a half.
Oh, it's intentional, though. It's very tongue-in-cheek, the whole tone of it, yeah. And Stephen D'Souza did a pass on the script, and he didn't want to take it seriously at all. And even Mark L. Lester said that, too, is like that's the power of this is we don't take it too serious. And
So
it's kind of and I told Jason this before, for me, it's like the ultimate Schwarzenegger vehicle as far as all the elements are in place here. It may have been the beginning of the I'll be back continuation trend, because right before this was Red Sonja and Conan the Destroyer. I'm pretty sure he didn't say it in either of those films, but it became a staple henceforth, yeah. So it knows what it is. It was a restructured vehicle for Schwarzenegger, and I think they just had a lot of fun with it.
One thing it for sure started was this rivalry between Schwarzenegger and Stallone. First Blood Part 2 had come out, I think that June, or was it May? May have been earlier than that. Made a boatload of money. Commando was an October release, which is kind of weird for this type of movie. But Commando made a bunch of money too, just not as much as Stallone did with Rambo. And Rambo Part 2 is a very, very different movie from the first one. Mm-hmm. I think you'll have to agree on that. The tone is very, very different.
Well, the first one, it wasn't, well, even though we're not talking about that movie, but the first one it wasn't necessarily intentionally setting up a franchise, was it?
No, not at all.
Yeah.
It was based on one book by David Morrell, which in fact, in the end of the book, he dies.
Right.
And they didn't think of, we're going to make a sequel at the time. They just didn't want to end it like that. Mm-hmm. So they brought in James Cameron and he wrote a pass on it. And really, I think more than anything, and no one talks about it, how much First Blood Part 2 is influenced by Missing in Action the year before. I mean, right down to the machine gun out of the water sequences. I mean, it's the same plot pretty much. So I think that they were like, well, let's strike on this trend. Like they knew it was going to be a thing.
Mm-hmm. Reagan had campaigned for his 1980 presidential bid on the notion that we could have won the Vietnam War had we not lost our nerve. Missing in Action, especially, was one of those movies where we were trying to go back and fix that somehow. And that usually involved somebody working for a secret paramilitary group that only reports to the president, which nowadays we don't look at as maybe not such a good idea. Remo Williams was one of those also, by the way.
1985.
But you saw this happen in movie after movie after movie, though. I don't know. I don't remember First Blood Part 2 having that element to it exactly like that. Commando certainly does. John Matrix is part of a secret unit that went in and you're not going to giggle every time I say unit, are you?
I wasn't giggling at unit.
You are.
No, I wasn't. I was just, no. Like for some reason in my mind, I was just thinking about Cox. So, but go on.
You mean Dewey Cox, of course, in Walk Hard.
Yeah. Dewey Cox's penis. Yeah.
And his primates.
Yeah.
Arguing on the bus.
His monkey's unit. I was laughing about his monkey's unit. Yep.
Yes.
And full circle. Go ahead.
Right. So John Matrix's guys go into a completely made up country somewhere, probably Central America. It was Val Verde, I think is what it was called.
Yes.
East Val Verde.
Depose the elected president in favor of a different one.
Well, that's the setup of the plot.
Right.
I mean,
well, it isn't. It isn't. I mean, the plot is.
Well, as far as what their purpose is.
Sure.
The bad guy's plot.
The bad guy's plot, which also involves Vernon Wells as Bennett.
Circuitry Man.
Oh man, that's in my pile of to be watched VHS tapes.
I know he was in Weird Science and Inner Space, but I didn't know he was in Circuitry Man.
The Road Warrior, and he's in both movies called Fortress. By the way,
I was just about to say Fortress is on my watch list too.
The Rachel Ward and the Christopher Lambert film.
So why did he end up trying to look like medieval Freddie Mercury on Snacks?
I don't know.
With too many
the story is he came in, he was not the original choice. The first actor was fired. I don't know who it was. And
couldn't be for
he had to wear, whatever the case was, Mark L. Lester fired the guy like the next day. They brought in Wells, maybe because of the Road Warrior, I'm not sure. But also, he had to wear the wardrobe that was already fitted for the previous actor, who, in Wells' wording, he was a bit smaller in stature. That's why all this stuff kind of looks more weird on him, I guess. Like, I mean, it's already weird anyway. The fact that he wears that for like 12 hours straight is also weird, but whatever.
Well, see,
what's super weird to me is that, like, and sorry if I cut you there, Jason,
No.
but like, okay, he's pissed off because he got kicked off the team, right?
Right.
So we're going to side by side them. We're going to see Wells and Schwarzenegger.
Yeah.
The undefined physique and chainmail of Wells versus Schwarzenegger. Maybe he just wasn't up to snuff for the job.
That is one thing that I remember clearly from seeing this movie the first time when I was 13 was this guy doesn't have any shot of winning this fight at all.
Right.
There's no way. And they never mention why exactly he got kicked off the team. I was guessing dress code violation, but I really don't know because he wears.
But he's like a Gorton's fisherman in the beginning, so he's not. He's okay at that point, and then he goes really like drastically.
Well, in the director's cut, because I went ahead and rented that and watched that last night, Jason.
Which is the better cut. But
yeah, and it explains why they let him go because they had a gig at like some school and he couldn't go within 50 feet of a school with that mustache because he molested collies. Boy collies.
I can see why they would have cut that from the
Studio 54 wasn't a problem.
Nope. Nope. Not at all. You know what? I wanted to talk about this at the very beginning. This was my first note. I thought it would be really kind of fun to play the podcast, the character, as somebody that's never heard of Arnold Schwarzenegger, and this was their first experience. That would be pretty amazing, I think. Don't shake your head. I like your nod, Nathan. I like where your head's at. I don't like where your head's at, Jason. Yeah. You want one of my migraine pills? Too bad. We're over the internet. Dummy.
Well, it goes into play with what I was saying. This is like an ultimate vehicle for Schwarzenegger. So if you had an introductory film, this would be it.
Oh, wow. Jason agrees now.
This would be a good jumping off point for Schwarzenegger. He is extremely sweaty through the entire film to the point where I thought maybe he had a glandular problem. But what kills me is...
He lifts telephone booths.
And
I mean,
what I find absolutely hysterical is the scene in the mall. Because he's fallen jumped off of an airplane into a swamp, then walked over to this mall to track down Sully. And he's so desperately trying to blend in with everybody else, being like gigantic, sweaty, and smelling like a swamp the entire time.
Yeah, they don't.
And there's that bit where he's trying to like hide behind a pole, and Radon Chong is pointing him out to the mall cops, and they're just like, "Oh yeah, there he is." Just cracks me up every single time.
He's one big motherfucker.
Yeah,
he's the worst. He's the worst line reading ever.
Barely behind the post, like they can't see me, can they? No. Paul Blart found you. He's right there.
Sorry, Arnie, your nipples.
Oh yeah. Actually, in that scene, Dick Warlock is one of the mall cops. So
is he really?
Yeah. He has like one line. I think he falls to the ground. He's on the walkie and he talks to the other guys briefly. And I was like, oh, there he is. Yeah.
Okay, and then my other thing is that I thought was really weird is since I hadn't necessarily seen this movie, it was really confusing to me that Arnold and Bill Duke weren't friends because I'd seen Predator so many times.
Yes.
And then also more confusing is Bill Duke's alive. After seeing the Predator documentary, he didn't make it. So how is he?
What he's saying is he's like, he thinks that his character is the same character.
Is he?
Films.
Is that what you're telling me, Nathan?
No. Well, what are they in Predator? He's not a Green Beret in Predator.
No, he's like a purple star. He's like
they're all mercenaries.
No,
right?
You're thinking of Lucky Charms. There,
yeah,
right?
he's a clover. Yeah, a green clover.
That's the other breakfast that Schwarzenegger eats.
He's a honey smack.
He's a honey smack. That was the name of his unit, was the Honey Smacks, I think.
Honey Smacks. We never got into trouble. So can we talk about Dan Hedaya's voice?
I remember you, scumbag. especially the people you've tortured and killed.
Colonel Matrix, you do not understand a country like Valverde. It is a country that needs a president who has an understanding of discipline.
Why tell me?
Because you're going to return to Valverde, and you are going to kill the president that you helped to overthrow me.
Why don't you have Bennett do it? Sounds like something he will get off on.
Because President Velasquez trusts you, Colonel. After all, he made you the hero of the revolution. Well, Captain Benny left, shall we say, under a cloud.
Yeah, because he enjoyed killing a little too much.
Yes, it's an amazing accent he's putting on in this one.
Well, no,
he's
not
in the
even
movie
that.
very much.
I disagree with that. It was terrible. It was no F. Murray Abraham in Scarface, but it wasn't. But I'm just talking about his voice in general. I've always had some, like, it's like almost like an ASMR thing where he has a certain, there's something going on there that I'm just like, man, I want to listen to him read a book. Nothing?
Yeah.
No, nothing there? Like,
No, looking to see if he does audiobooks.
no, I don't care if he does audiobooks, God damn it. I'm just saying, I enjoy the man's voice.
Him and Peter
Yeah,
Coyote.
he's got a
that's
very
all they do
distinct
now.
voice. It's a good voice. Yeah, I agree.
Yeah.
He's perfect as Arius, the sort of secondary villain.
The
after Bennett.
most unnecessary villain ever. Well, I guess we'll just blow him out of a window by the end.
They could have done another movie where the whole setup is just Bennett going after Matrix and made that the whole movie.
Yeah.
pretty much
That's
what it
it's
is
weird that
anyway.
they go that route.
But then again, how would they involve the?
Unless he just
Daughter?
needed him
I
to
don't know.
bankroll the whole adventure.
Yeah, that's probably why. Yeah, they had to make it political in his realm in order for it to
Mhm.
work, I guess. But and then they went and kidnapped Alyssa Milano.
Melissa Milano in her
And-
first feature.
But they,
I think she just
Uh,
wrapped up a season of Who's the Boss? First season of it.
Yeah, but she'd done another movie prior to this called Old Enough. It was like a coming of age teenage girl movie that it was like the previous. It was the same year as Who's the Boss.
Not familiar
Not
with
it-
that one. Sorry.
It was like one of those that played on HBO back in the day. And it's kind of I don't even know if it's on DVD. It just kind of disappeared.
so were the opening credits designed to look like the opening credits to like Who's the Boss or any other given sitcom?
Commando.
Yeah. I
Nothing
mean, there's
noticed.
okay, check it out. Like, there's all these various clips of them doing funny activities. She puts ice cream in
Oh,
his
I got you.
face. Oh God!
I thought you were actually like
Oh,
I thought you
yeah,
meant
I
the
see what you're going with that.
typeface. Okay.
No,
yeah.
no.
me too.
Like, just the clips in general over the opening credits. Everything is just like, oh, you caught a salmon. I'm gonna wiggle it in your face. It fell out of my hands. And
It
just
is, yeah.
and it even does like the weird zoom on the womp womp face. You know, I wish I could show you my face, but I have to pretend like this is an audio format.
And even then, I was wondering, how is he even hiding out in this little town where he clearly sticks out from everybody around him? He couldn't have been that hard to find. I mean, if you just asked around a little bit.
Was he
Well, evidently
necessarily
they didn't.
hiding?
Oh,
though?
the giant? In the giant that lives... Yeah, I think he was supposed to be in
the
hiding
giant
at
in the
that point, wasn't
castle in the hill
he? Yes, exactly.
with the amazing window
Yeah.
with the breathtaking dining area.
Where do you think that... Did they mention in the director's cut where the mother is in this? Because they just kind
No.
of pass right over that.
No,
don't
and I
know if it's
lied. I
important
didn't
to the
actually
story at
watch the
all.
director's cut.
I didn't even know there was one until Joe
It's
mentioned
just
it
like
yesterday.
it's like a 2-minute difference, and there's a line change that Alyssa Milano has early on when I can't remember what she says in the R-rated version, but it's like, I can't wait for him to see you kick, or to see him kick your ass is what she says in the director's cut. In the R-rated version, it's like, I guess, kick your butt or something. Not that that's a big deal, but I guess because it was a
What the
kid.
fuck?
Here comes a hiney walloping.
But the meat of it comes in that tool shed sequence, and you have all this gore in that sequence
Man.
in its cut.
Yeah.
It went from
That was amazing.
A-Team to missing in action without skipping a beat there. It was like everybody's getting shot off camera and falling down, and then all of a sudden
Mhm.
your arm's getting cut off, and here's 10% of your head taken off with a saw blade.
Yeah.
Like it
And
was.
you saw the director's cut.
No, I watched the
No.
regular R cut.
There's more gore in that scene.
Oh, really?
I mean, it's like, yeah, like he cuts the arm off and it lingers on that quite a bit.
No, there wasn't a
Is
big
he-
linger there.
Does it like point the arm at the camera and
It was him.
Yeah, he did the Donald Sutherland from Invasion of the Body Snatchers.
There's a revenge subplot there that starts there where the arm is never mind.
yeah, I don't know
No,
where
it's
you're
good.
going with that
Keep
either.
going.
No, I didn't know how I was going to shoehorn it into The Fugitive, but I was gonna.
Okay. So let's talk about that mall.
Say what?
Sorry, Joe.
Oh no, it's fine. I was
Go
there's
ahead.
going to a note myself about like I was going to talk about the plane ride with Triangle Head getting his neck cut or neck broke
Oh,
and then
yeah.
taking
Isn't
a
that
nap.
great?
Yeah, that was great because the lady goes, any carry-on luggage? And Schwarzenegger says, just him. And the guy says something like, oh, shut the fuck up or I'm gonna box your fucking head or something. I don't know. And he was just like, okay, big guy. And he gets the blanket and snaps his neck and then tucks him in for night. And old Triangle Head didn't see it coming. Is he from Tim and Eric? He looks like he was from Tim and Eric. He looks like the guy from Tim and Eric.
No, I don't think so.
No, okay.
Are you referring to David Patrick Kelly as Sully?
No.
The guy that's escorting him on the plane
His
ride.
head is
That's on the
vaguely
plane ride.
triangular.
Like he had to have
I
been
know
friends
that
with
guy was.
somebody because they were like, hey, do you want a gig where you say a couple of lines of Schwarzenegger and then fall asleep? Sure.
Why not?
We just got to put a little bit of blood on your nose at the end of the movie. No big deal. Okay.
But David Patrick Kelly, like you're saying, the ultimate heel in 80s movies, man.
Oh, my
And
God,
also
yeah.
The Crow.
Yeah, that's where I know him from. And I at the
Yeah.
time, whenever he first came on screen,
Oh, you did see the director's cut.
Huh?
Oh, wait, no, okay, never mind. Not that kind of cum. Okay.
Ew. He I wasn't looking at the screen, but I heard his voice and I was just like, T-Bird, because
It's the
that's
guy.
where I know him from is the Crow.
Fire it up.
Yeah. I was waiting for him to be like, there ain't no coming back. Whenever he's dangling him over the cliff. There ain't no coming
yeah.
back, Matrix.
And Dreamscape. Don't forget that one.
Dreamscape, yeah. And how many times did you see Enter the Dragon?
Dreamscape of femininity.
Never mind. All right. But yeah, The Warriors and
Warriors.
48 Hours,
48 Hours.
which is the closest link to this film because it's Joel Silver producing, Stephen E. D'Souza writing. So, money in the
Well, a
bank.
lot of these guys, like, it was almost like a production team for a long time because these guys worked on like 48 Hours, another 48 Hours, Running Man. D'Souza wrote Die Hard and Die Hard 2, some episodes of Knight Rider, I think.
I almost
For
watched
some
Running
reason?
Man right after this because Prime told me to.
Yeah.
I love Running
Jason,
Man. I think
it's
that
great.
is an ultimate Schwarzenegger vehicle. In contrast to this, that's a movie I've seen countless times and I can go back to it anytime. Is
Hmm.
The Running Man. This one I could see maybe watching it another time or two. Like it didn't do it for me like other movies have of his.
Not Raw Deal.
So, Nathan, I don't want to talk about that movie, Jason,
Okay.
ever again. Okay.
Okay.
I don't need you bad mouthing those kind of deals that are raw. Nathan, cut this out, Jason. Like you had said that this was tongue in cheek and that it was meant to be comedic, but I think that it didn't come across as that to me. So without the knowledge of them doing it, I don't think that it landed well because for it to be successful like that, you don't need to be told, don't tell me that a joke is funny, just make the joke funny. And I didn't get that. Like, I didn't know. I just thought it was it felt very just basic because of that. And after you tell me that, I can go back and look at it and go, oh yeah, that was funny because now that I know they weren't taking it completely seriously, completely serious or anything. I don't know.
Yeah.
To be fair to that point, some of the jokes don't land as well now, an audience now as they might have then. Like, I think Schwarzenegger's first line in the movie is, why don't they just call him Girl George? It's less confusing. Like, okay. All right.
Yeah, but that's
lazy.
the sign of the times, though. I mean,
That would still make me
people
laugh
would
because
say
I
that
don't
shit.
care. It doesn't that that kind of like I'm still gonna laugh at Porky's. They do some pretty horrible stuff in there
forever.
For now,
Yeah.
Though I will cringe in Revenge of the Nerds still. Like if I watched it like 5 or 6 years ago, and them setting up everything, I was just kind of like, this is getting kind of weird. Like I don't know if I can go along with this.
That's only because you've seen it played out in so many movies since then that it's kind of ruined it, I think. And that might be the same thing with Commando.
No, not that it's bad or that it doesn't work anymore, but just that it's I find it like it's creepy. It's very gross. Where like I can the shower scene in Porky's is still hilarious to me.
Yeah, no, I mean you can't defend. I mean, it was always creepy what they were doing.
It was hot back in the day. Like whenever I was a kid, I was like, oh yeah, boner jam time.
But you knew it was wrong. You knew what they were doing was wrong.
But it was so funny.
Under the guise of vengeance, it's palatable.
It was. I think that we should talk about this movie another time. We should talk about Commando. I just don't want to derail it into that kind of stuff, so I'm sorry.
No, that's perfectly fine. In a way, it leads into the next point I was going to get to, which is this whole relationship between Bennett and Matrix. Part of the audience took that a very different way than was intended, I think, by the writers. Now, is it wrong that they're assuming that Bennett has this massive crush on John Matrix? Maybe he does. I don't know.
I mean,
I don't think it's written that way, no.
No, I don't think it was written that way either. I mean, but it was such... Didn't they have to address it finally in I think it was the 2007 25th anniversary release or something like that they put in a whole extra feature.
Could it have anything to do with him looking like Freddie Mercury?
Well, that's why I think people make that assumption, is that they look at how the wardrobe
it's
and
just
the
chainmail,
mustache, and it just goes part and parcel with that. Maybe,
yeah.
Well, that and there's that bizarre range of emotions that cross over Bennett's face toward the end of the movie.
He gets almost orgasmic in the scene.
Matrix is holding the knife and is basically saying, "Stick it in me, you know you want to," and he's like, "Okay,
Bennett, stop screwing around and let the girl go. It's me that you want. I have only one arm. You can beat me. Come on, Bennett. Throw away that chicken shit gun. I don't just want to pull a trigger. To put a knife in me and look me in the eye and see what's going on in there when you turn it. That's what you want to do, right? I'm kidding you, John. Come on, let the girl go. It's between you and me. Don't deprive yourself of some pleasure. Come on, Bennett. Let's party. I can beat you. I don't need the girl. I don't need the girl!
I don't need the gun, John. I can beat you.
I don't need no gun! I'm gonna kill you now!
And then he actually penetrates him with a pipe, and then and then it comes back, and you see the ejac of steam.
Yeah.
And he's like, "Finally, you have penetrated me."
A little further than I was going to go with it, but yeah, okay, I can see that.
John, how's your arm, John? Come over here and find out. No thanks.
Spot on.
I think he just has this
on impressions.
But I think that he has like this admiration for him, and the fact that like that whole scene he has with Dan Hedaya, where he tells him, the two of us could single-handedly take out your entire platoon, basically.
Mm-hmm.
And he knows, he goes, "Aren't you fearful of him?" And he goes, "Of course I am," because he knows. So there's like this appreciation. He hates him. I think a lot of it is he wants to be him, maybe.
That could be.
And he knows that I think deep down he knows he doesn't have a shot going up against him, but
what about
he's crazy enough to try.
He got the ultimate breakup by getting kicked off the team.
It obviously wounded him deeply, but we don't know exactly.
You need to take your chainmail and go away. Yeah, I mean, because like getting canned from a job, I couldn't, like, it doesn't make sense to me to go and just go through that much trouble and preparation
Certainly not any jobs I've
in the
had.
name of vengeance
No.
for I got fired. Always a nice healthy severance, and you're
sometimes it's a nice relief, to get away. Yeah. Well, I don't know. This one, because the script was apparently drastically different initially before Stephen D'Souza did a pass on it. And it was written by the Teen Wolf writing team.
Really?
Joseph Loeb and Matthew Wiseman, yeah. It was before,
They should
but it
have
was
called themselves
before,
Teen
I think
Wolf.
this may have been their first script together. They also did Burglar. I know Jason loves the movie Burglar. They wrote it, and in the guise that the main character, obviously he wouldn't have been named John Matrix at the time, but he was supposed to be an ex-Israeli army soldier who has turned his back on the life of violence and war and all that. But then the whole plot of his daughter getting kidnapped brings him back into it. So, but I don't know the whole tone of it. I don't know if that sounds like a straightforward storyline, not comedic
What
in
if-
any way or
What if in that
expectation.
original
Go ahead.
in the
I know,
original
sorry, I had to finish.
You kept going. I'm sorry. I
got
thought there was
more.
a stopping point, and you were like, "No, wait."
Hamburglar.
What if in that original draft, Bennett was actually his ex-wife and Jenny's mom, and that's why there's those undertones. But she went out and got like a sex change. But that was 1985. We couldn't broach that. Nobody was championing that. It would have been weird back then. Today it could fly.
Well, that's
But
what I'm
back
saying. I
then-
don't even know if the Bennett character would have been in the original
And
draft.
then-
And that's all we know about it. We don't know that the Dan Hedaya, the political scheme, any of that was.
There's got to be a copy out there somewhere.
Yeah.
That'd be interesting.
But it was basically 20th Century Fox owned the script, and it was sitting on the shelf, and they wanted to do a film with Schwarzenegger, but they wanted to tailor make something for him. But instead of making something new, they would kind of customize an existing property, and that's where they brought D'Souza in because Joel Silver was producing, and they said, well, why don't we punch this up and make it a vehicle for him? And I think that's also why it's as comedic as it is, and what Joe was saying, it seems kind of unrealistic at times because he was larger than life, and I think that was their approach to it. Let's make a larger than life scenario. Like, none of this shit's plausible. We know that.
No.
But we're just going to make a fun romp of a film for him, basically.
It didn't feel like much of a fun romp until the last bit, too, to me.
Really? I think it's like beat for beat, it's a lot of fun. Like, it's a crowd pleaser. If you put this on in the theater, yeah.
But it was that implausibility also
It hits
that
all the marks.
became a trend in a lot of other action movies and led us directly to Last Action Hero, where they had to recognize,
Yeah, that's
holy shit, this
the
is ridiculous.
self-parody of it
I
all.
was
Yeah.
even thinking watching this movie that outside of this genre, the character of John Matrix wouldn't last 30 minutes. You put John Matrix in, say, a horror movie, like a Friday the 13th. He's one of those characters that gets offed in the first half hour of that movie. Because he just walks in, thinks he's going to shoot everything up, and he's killed. You know what I'm saying? Nightmare on Elm Street, goner.
Actually, I feel like he
Tactics.
had more tactics than your traditional, like,
Oh,
I'm
okay,
just
he
gonna
also
shoot
used
everything.
bombs. My
Like,
mistake.
yeah, like, okay, for instance, at the very beginning, whenever at the very beginning, he tells the guy, the one of the bodyguards or military guys, he's like, stand downwind. And he was like, why? And he was like, I could smell them coming. You
Wait,
know,
was that a clip?
He's,
I
you
can
know,
smell them coming.
Uh-oh.
Oh.
Oh, no, that was the porno I watched.
Not to be confused with Son of a Woman.
No, like, but he did use other tactics. It wasn't just kick open
also
the
used a
door and
rocket
shoot
launcher, yeah.
everything. He he was doing a barrel roll. Yeah, I mean, come on, Jason, work with me here. No, and he seemed like he had a slightly more tactical approach than just the traditional action guy that just walked in
That's
and
what he
blew
did in the
everything
whole
up.
movie.
Even though that's what he ended up doing, he seemed like I know, but it seemed like before he would do it, he had a thought process about it. He knew, like, I could tell that his character wasn't just a trained shoot 'em up guy. He thought about it. He had a slight plan that went into effect as he was going into the I'm going to blow everything up phase.
He sets the time when he knows when he asks the flight attendant, when is this plane supposed to land? And she tells him, and right when he lands on the water, he sets his watch to that time frame, and it's like, yeah, then it becomes like a real ride, I think, at that point, because you know that he's up against the clock,
and then also, if it was just any of those other movies, Jason, he wouldn't have set his watch with the timer there. That would have been attached to some bomb he just threw at somebody.
Okay.
So, boom, goes your theory of him.
He still doesn't
not
last 20 minutes
calculating
against
things
Freddy
with his
Krueger.
calculator watch.
I'm saying that. No way.
I don't know.
I mean, a lot of people don't last 30 minutes with Freddy Krueger.
Unless you're
I mean,
Heather Langenkamp,
dream killer, man. You're in his world, bitch. You know. I mean, Voorhees is virtually unstoppable. You know, Myers is kind of the same thing, just a lumbering force. I mean, Candyman, I guess he's going to stand in the dark with a mirror and another 13-year-old girl and say his name. Yeah. I don't know.
Let's see John Matrix go up against Tony Todd.
What we need to do is see what it's like for John Matrix to get pregnant. That's
a
movie.
But I don't know that we...
And cast Danny DeVito, too. Because them acting against each other, holy shit.
It's a great idea, Joe, but I think it's been done.
Has it? Was it called Sabotage?
Oh, don't say that one.
I wish David Ayers would do some really good stuff again.
Wishes that as well. God, that movie is a mess.
Which moves?
I try to forget that one.
Sabotage? I don't think I've actually seen that one.
You're good.
Oh,
you're
I am?
good.
Good. Perfect.
And I love Schwarzenegger, so I will watch, but I was like, oh, no.
That's what I was excited about. I love Schwarzenegger. I love Ayers.
I was totally excited for that movie. And then it just played out just fucking dumb the whole way through. It just was like, no. And it kept going. Like when you thought it was ending, it kept going. And you're like, no, I just remember Schwarzenegger in a hoodie in this like club atmosphere at the end. And I was like, oh, this just needs to end. It's just bad. I don't know.
Yeah, I saw it in the theater and then went home, and I think I watched Street Kings. And was
First
like,
Street Kings is
you.
amazing. Yeah. Yeah, I watched the second one with Ray Liotta. Not physically with Ray Liotta. That would have been awesome. But yeah.
Do you think Schwarzenegger gets enough credit for doing these sorts of hybrid comedy action movies like Commando or True Lies in particular I'm thinking of here?
Oh,
he's known more as the
for
action
sure.
guy.
I mean, you got True Lies,
Well,
Last Action Hero.
This movie kind of set him up for doing, the Ivan Reitman films, Twins. I mean, he was already kind of playing comedically with his persona in films. In The Running Man, certainly, he has a lot of fun in that. And Red Heat.
And I'm sure just talking to him on a personal level as a person, like, you see, like, he's got this element.
Oh, yeah, he does not take
would
himself
transfer
seriously.
into
He has
this.
fun.
So,
like every interview,
Yeah. So I think there's no doubt that even if he wasn't doing that with the roles, then somebody like Ivan Reitman would have seen it, like met with him and been like, shit, dude, you want to get pregnant?
For a movie.
So...
Have you seen the movie Rabbit Test? We're looking at redoing that. That was a commercial hit. And
how many people do you think remember that there was a movie called Rabbit Test besides
that's just the thing is nobody does.
Here.
Joan Rivers directed that.
Billy
thing.
Crystal.
Yep.
Did she? I've never heard of it, so that's 2 out of 3.
Watch it for the cast.
It's Joan Rivers. I love Joan Rivers.
It's got a great eclectic cast.
Oh, somebody break their arm?
And that happens early on. And it's you with the remote while you're trying to watch Rabbit.
That poor
Test,
rabbit.
Actually, so I was going to say earlier about the location, the Galleria Mall, is like this famous landmark in films. Probably most notably in Fast Times at Ridgemont High. That's the location.
Yeah.
And Sherman Oaks
really?
Galleria. I don't think it's around anymore.
No,
they used
I think it got
Jim Wynorski used it in Chopping Mall. Let's see. Valley Girl has some shots from there. Phantom of the Mall, Eric's Revenge.
Wasn't the villain's lair at the end, wasn't that like Buster Keaton's estate at one time or something? I think it's been used in
I don't know that.
Quite a few movies too.
Wow.
The giant mansion.
It might have been.
I know I've seen it. I think it was in Beverly Hills Cop and at least one other one I can think of. Maybe.
Was it the second one with the mansion shootout? Yeah, it was, wasn't it?
That was the same house.
Because that was Hollywood
We almost
Gun
had a
Club.
connection there because D'Souza wrote Beverly Hills Cop 3. But anyway, he didn't do 2.
Beverly Hills Cop 3 was the one where they thought they weren't going to get Eddie Murphy, so they were going to go with Nipsey Russell just in case, wasn't it?
There was a massive rewrite on the script because every line rhymed. Yeah.
Oh my gosh. You guys are
The weird thing is
wow.
John Saxon was signed to it the whole time. He was invested.
He was on board no matter what.
Rest in
He's like,
peace.
oh, you did get Eddie Murphy? All right, I'll still do it. Yeah, it was that mall was used in also in Inner Space, Vernon Wells movie, and Vernon Wells is actually in the mall in that sequence when Martin Short gets in.
Holy shit, Vernon Wells
he's
is in
awesome.
that.
Mm-hmm.
And when he gets injected, Martin Short's character in the mall. And what other movies was it? It's not, ironically, it's not in scenes from a mall. They didn't use that mall. They should have. It was an amalgam of like a few different malls, I think. But Walk Like a Man.
What was the mall in Jackie Brown?
Ooh, I don't know.
That mall is so killer.
Yeah, it is.
That was like a brilliant location. Like every time I watch that, I get very nostalgic for that
And
mall.
you know what I always
everything
think
in that
of when
mall.
I think of that movie is I think of that food court sequence between Pam Grier and Robert Forster just hanging out. And,
Do you want to mention or talk about Radon Chong in this movie as
Absolutely.
Cindy?
I found her annoying at first
What?
because she was screaming and making bad jokes.
Well,
She was like me, I guess, and I didn't
that
like
was
it.
pretty much
That's sexy.
every woman in this kind of movie for years, though.
It is, but did we need him to babysit somebody else? She didn't really do anything until the end.
Though.
Yeah, she flew the plane
No,
at the
but
end.
she knows
Yes.
about how, the place to wherever she's getting her pilot license, and then she knows that's where the refueling happens, and she reads the instructions
they
on the
have to
rocket
retool that
launcher.
in for
come
her?
on.
She does
Yeah,
rescue him
she
with the
did.
rocket launcher. Don't forget that.
Yeah. No, it's like she flips the switch very early on and becomes like this. He couldn't have kidnapped a better cohort, I guess,
Well, you try to
Yeah.
understand her situation, and then she's trying to get help from mall cops, which was a bad idea in the beginning. Sees a guy get torn out of a phone booth. I would be a little discombobulated also, at least for a few minutes.
That seems to be a theme in a lot of his movies too, with like Running Man and Total Recall, where he's like taking these women and making them into a badass by the end of the movie. So good for you, Schwarzenegger.
Maria Conchita Alonso and Running Man.
Yeah, that's a
Uh-huh.
very good
Yep.
parallel. Yeah.
That's what I said. Running Man and Total
Yeah.
Recall. Wasn't it Total Recall?
Total Recall's
No, it was. I'm thinking.
Total Recall's
No, yeah, that's
Rachel Ticotin.
that was
who's
Sharon
also
Stone,
she's
and
already a
then Rachel-
badass
yeah.
though in that.
Yeah, I think I was mixing up because I was thinking of Running Man like two different things, because there's the part whenever they are trying to run through the airport.
You might have been thinking of Emma Thompson
And-
Jr. though.
Oh, you. Let me see here. Okay, this is one thing that I really loved. At the end, whenever crap, I forgot Arius. Dan Hidea's character, and Matrix are having their gunfight. It was another thing where I think it was an ASMR type situation, but I noticed this in a lot of the action movies of that era, where there's gunfire, and then step, gunfire. You hear the click clack of the foot, the feet running, and it's, I don't know, it just it's satisfying to me. It's weirdly satisfying on an audio level to just hear it, because there's nothing else. It's complete silence.
Interesting.
Except for bang, 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 bang. Yeah, I know. You're like sitting there going, okay, he's got a coconut. Nope, that was my mouth.
He's doing a Graham Chapman. Or no, Terry Gilliam.
that
I'm
was
sorry,
my-
not Graham Chapman.
Yeah. That was, yep. But that is, I noticed that in quite a few action movies of that era, where there's no score, there's no other weird, just some kind of track like birds chirping. I don't know, whatever would be in that environment isn't there. It's just blank, except for bang, 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 bang.
I hadn't noticed that. I'll have to go back and watch it again and check that out, because I don't know why I wouldn't have noticed that before. It is a little unusual. Yeah, normally, especially in this time period, you would expect every scene to have that weird synth soundtrack that was just everywhere.
Well, I think, that mass
Or just excess in everything.
There's moments in that mass shootout sequence where you kind of go, Jesus Christ, it's just gunplay. I mean, it's just like he's saying, it's just nonstop.
Well, that's what I took a note on, was how it was pretty amazing that pretty much the third act was almost no dialogue and all gunfire. And I thought that was pretty cool, like just from not just like a writing standpoint, like figuring out all the action plot pieces to that, but just from the filmmaking standpoint, it's just wild to me that you could have this whole thing, just because I like to write dialogue. So thinking in terms of action exhausts me.
Yeah.
So seeing it played out like that is super cool. And I just thought it was awesome. And then the explosions of all the buildings were amazing.
They did look great.
Except for the standing soldiers that they just propped up, and they don't even.
You could tell they were just the cardboard guys that kind of.
Well, they're just like wedged. They're held up by something, and at first you're like, "Oh, is it just like a shooting range target? Maybe." No, they're actually supposed to be soldiers.
Well, they were doing this on a budget of about $10 million, which was about a quarter of what they had to do Rambo 2.
Yeah,
like the budget on this was 10 million. It ended up making 57. Rambo had 44 million to start out and made 150.
Wow.
So really, in terms of ratio between budget and box office, Commando was slightly more successful. But yeah, there are some moments where you can see the seams, like you were talking about with the cardboard cutouts that are supposed to be people. But other than that, I thought they did a pretty good job making everything work with what they had.
Yeah, they definitely did.
They wrecked some very nice cars.
That's true.
Yeah. I don't think I was really troubled by it, but I thought it was kind of weird that I didn't really find it too concerning considering the era of the movie. But I thought it was weird from my now adult mind, I guess, that she witnessed her father murder this guy with the pipe, in such a gruesome way. And then just like looks at him and smiles and is like, "Yay, daddy." You know, it seemed very weird to me. Like, it seems like, I think if my son saw me do that, he'd be like, "Oh, fuck."
So you're assuming that this is the first time she's seen that happen, though. He could be like the Arkansas pipe murderer for all we know in his past. You know.
And the guy's a piece of shit that she hates.
That's
through the whole
true,
movie
but she probably, wanting to see somebody dead and then actually seeing them dead, they're two very different things. And the ramifications of her seeing that fantasy in her head come to life, I'm overthinking it because I'm an adult now.
Yeah.
As a kid, I would have been like, "Fuck yeah."
Well, you could say the same thing about the daughter character in True Lies. I mean, if they always said if they were going to make a sequel to that movie, it would have to be about the daughter.
Oh yeah.
Because
and her therapy.
Yeah. her many, many years of therapy. Sadly, that sequel never got made.
After that tape of her mom comes out dancing on a chair.
Yeah.
That's nothing to be ashamed about, though. I mean,
I was just talking about the ramifications of watching your father. Yeah.
Kill somebody with a pipe. Yeah.
He was talking about the trauma.
Well, just in general, in some kind of brutal way, no matter how much you see somebody wanting, like in your head, you want somebody to die. Actually, either doing it or seeing it actually take place are two different crazy things. And it just seemed weird to me in my adult mind. Like I said, as a kid, if I watched this as a kid, I would be cheering with her and being like, yeah, she's smiling. She's happy. She's safe. Her dad saved the day. But as an adult, you're like, he just like weirdly, brutally murdered this guy. Like, I mean, they were fighting and it was going to end one way, of course. But I mean, he put a friggin' like 10-foot pipe through his chest.
Let off some steam.
And yeah, let off some steam. I was trying to remember what it was.
At the very least, Dad has a lot of explaining to do to his daughter about the way he's been living his life for the last 20 years or so.
But I think it would be more traumatic if it were a corncob pipe.
That's fair. Do you think that...
I mean, it was a clean kill, you got to admit.
That Schwarzenegger movies are where dad jokes originated?
Ooh, interesting. Maybe.
Because we all grew up on this era, so it's just like, you know, we're going to say something like that. Why don't you take a steam?
Yeah, why don't you take a steam bath?
Why don't you take a steamer on the chest?
Steam your vegetables before you eat them.
Not as punchy. Yeah.
Not as punchy. Yeah.
So was that D'Souza writing all those little bits, or was that Arnold just doing them?
I think it was D'Souza, because if you watch that DVD or the Blu-ray or that documentary where they talk about it, he had to like act out the script for Schwarzenegger.
Really?
Silver set up a meeting with him and he's like trying to pitch it to him. And the line that sold Schwarzenegger was the "You're a funny guy" solely. That whole line, D'Souza did it not even realizing, according to him, that he did it in a Schwarzenegger impressionistic
"You're a funny guy"
tone. And Schwarzenegger, he kind of like paused for a moment and he thought, "Oh shit, maybe I pissed him off." And then Schwarzenegger's like, "No, you know what? I think this is worthwhile. We need to do this." So maybe I'm sure he punched up the script throughout just for as it was working well, they probably went back and dolled up some. I mean, all you had to do is put in like a few tweaks here and there just to make it more fun. Yeah, D'Souza, I mean, this is the beginning of, well, 48 Hours kind of was, but for him, it was the beginning of how many movies he did with Joel Silver?
A lot.
Die Hard 1 and 2. Also, the Franco Nero character in
Strange Days.
Die Hard 2.
Oh, wait.
Thank you. That's
Sorry.
Angela Bassett you're talking about.
I love that movie.
Yeah, the Franco Nero character, it's a great movie. Franco Nero character actually also came from this fictitious place, Valverde. So that's like this little through line that he kind of puts in a lot of his scripts.
Kind of like a Red Apple Cigarettes or that kind of thing.
Yeah, kind of. Let's talk about the director, Mark L. Lester.
Truck Stop Women.
And now all
Roller
the great
Boogie.
Truck Stop Women, yeah. Oh, just all the cult classics he's done. I mean, class of 1984 and
Firestarter, I think, was one of his.
Firestarter, yeah, he did it probably right before this. Also, Bobby Joe and the Outlaw, and Showdown in Little Tokyo. Yeah. He also did another movie with Alyssa Milano in the 90s, Public Enemies.
Oh.
Not to be confused with the Michael Mann movie, Public Enemies. This was with Teresa Russell, Eric Roberts, and it was about Ma Barker and Killer Brood again, you know.
So it was like a remake of A Big Bad Mama, effectively?
Kinda. Yeah, although that's not really... Well, more like Bloody Mama. It's the Shelley Winters Ma Barker movie.
Screaming for a remake, yeah.
But talking about The Running Man, he did a movie called Night of the Running Man with Andrew McCarthy and Scott Glenn that's really great. It went straight to HBO and then hit video.
That's what stuff's doing now.
Yeah. Truckers Women. Or Truck Stop Women. What was the one he did before that? Steel Arena.
I don't think I've even heard of it.
That's what I'm thinking. Very early, yeah.
Space Truckers.
Space Truckers.
Dennis Hopper movie.
Is it really?
Oh.
Rest in peace.
Oh, Armed and Dangerous. Forgot about that.
Oh, haven't we all?
What? That's a classic.
Okay.
Come on. Eugene Levy and Assless Chaps, are you kidding me?
A film connoisseur such as yourself, Nathan, everything is a classic.
Well, not everything. Roller Boogie.
Yes.
Stunts. That's a great one.
Pretty much everybody involved in this had some serious movie and action pedigree, really. They knew what they were doing.
Yeah, James Horner did an amazing score on this, and he came from the Corman camp, doing Battle Beyond the Stars, Lady in Red, Humanoids from the Deep.
Battle Beyond the Stars has a much better score than that movie really deserved. I mean, it's not saying it's a bad movie.
Oh, yeah. I mean...
Holy crap.
It's an amazing score. Movie, but Corman used that score like 50 times since then. I mean, yeah. And that score actually got him Star Trek II, The Wrath of Khan. Because there's one cue that's very similar to Jerry Goldsmith's Klingon battle in the motion picture. It has tones of that. It's very bombastic, and yeah. And of course, he did Star Trek 3, and he did Krull.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah. You should look at his filmography. I mean, that dude did like 3 or 4 scores per year. It was nuts up until he did. And of course, he did Aliens right after this for SLM, 20th Century Fox. Yeah. But did anyone own any of the action figures?
From Commando?
What?
Yeah. I wasn't aware of them.
I wasn't aware of them either.
Let me tell you.
Let me show you.
I still have the 16-inch John Matrix action figure.
There was a 16-inch?
They also made a 7-inch one and 4-inch figures. And that was done the year after in 86, and that was them competing with Rambo, Force of Freedom. That action figure line, which led into the cartoon, I think they wanted it to be like Force of Freedom went up against General Warhawk and his Savage team.
It's so weird.
It has a bad team called Fear.
The toys that were made from R-rated movies is so bizarre.
Yeah. It's a different era, that's for sure.
Yeah.
But they weren't marketed toward adults.
Like I was going through,
collectors.
I had some RoboCop trading cards, and there's one that I have that specifically shows that scene whenever Murphy gets his hand blown off by a shotgun.
Oh wow!
And the gore is all there, like the sinew and the veins and the muscle and all.
They
that
did
stuff.
It for the,
and it was all there on the card.
Is that not a later? Like I don't think they did. Did they do a RoboCop trading cards here? I know they did part 2.
Yeah, they did RoboCop 1, 2, and 3.
I didn't think they did 1 initially, unless they went back to it later on. Maybe
I'll dig it up and send you a picture of it. Look at the date on it.
Yeah,
But yeah, I was shocked because I don't think that was one of the scenes that had to be cut, but it was definitely one that had to be trimmed. So it's weird to have a still image of that on a trading card set for kids. Of this rated X violent movie.
RoboCop was
that seems
RoboCop was certainly not marketed to kids. Rambo was not. Commando, I don't think, was marketed to kids. So
neither was Freddy Krueger.
It was inevitable.
Look at this, like
right, yeah. Like Rambo had coloring books. I had
that is
those,
so weird.
Growing up, yeah.
That
was just you talk about the Reagan-Era. That was the era. I mean, that was the 80s was already excessive as it was, but just adding all that. G.I. Joe was a big force of that, though.
Yeah.
Everybody was trying to be G.I. Joe.
But G.I. Joe
pro-military.
But in the G.I. Joe cartoons, no one was allowed to actually be killed. Yeah. Anytime an airplane got shot, they parachuted out to safety and to fight another day.
And the Rambo cartoon, no one dies in that either.
Same with the A-Team.
Just the absolutely shameless marketing. Shameless.
Oh, dude, I had like the Rambo Uzi, I had the survival knife with the compass and the little charm thing that he wears around his neck, and
they teach you how to build a log with all the spikes on it so you can kill people in the forest.
You didn't have? Did you have a tiny little chainmail bib like in Commando?
No, they did. They actually did. They did a vest, a Commando vest. Also,
is there a Bennett action figure?
No, there wasn't. They all the action figures were fictitious aside from John Matrix.
I wonder if they would have used they would have defined his muscles at all, because he just had the fucking noodle arms there.
Here's a wad of dough with hair on it. This is Bennett.
Yeah,
that's the action figure.
Bennett. It's just chainmail on some raw dough.
Put some googly eyes on it. He'll be fine.
Hey, is this the same mold we use for Pizza the Hut?
Yes. It's Mr. Bill, actually. And Sacco.
Oh no, Mr. Bennett!
And on that note, I think it's time to draw this episode to a close. Thank you all for listening. We'll see you next time.
Bye-bye.
Later.
Rough boys running the streets. Come a little closer. Rough toys under the sheets. Nobody knows her.
The show is over. So once again we must say goodbye. Thank you for listening. The Smooth Thrills Radio Hour is a production of Ghostcraft and is recorded live in Dallas, Texas. Please email your questions and comments to autopilot at smooththrillsradiohour.com. Enjoy the rest of your day. Kisses.
I wanna see what I can find. Come kid, take a bottle of wine. When your deal is broken, 10 quid. She's so easy to blind. Not a word is spoken. Rough boys.
This has been a Ghostcraft presentation.